Now that we have learned the fountain, the first section of Unity in Motion is made up of 16 movements. And these 16 movements that you already have learned in the chair, now we are going to divide them into 4 whole movements. And this division of whole movements will help you to create specific formations of motions that then the mind can remember and practice as an individual aspect of the practice, or as the whole practice of the first section. Okay? So we're going to practice now the fountain, which is called the essential, and then the first whole movement made up of 7 movements that you already have learned. Okay? So here we go. We define the 0 point again. We define the field, the center of a space, the 7 centers, the energy of the arms, and 5, 6, 7, 8, and the fountain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is a diamond, 6, 7, 0 point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, moving heart, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the first movement, as you know, is called Unity in Motion. Outflowing wave and crown. A sphere of earth, inflowing wave, suspended wave, descending, ascending, outflowing wave, and crown. The third movement, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. The second movement is called central heart, ascending through center, raising the energy, connecting to the 2 hearts, the center of a space, 4 counts, and then descending, ascending, outflowing wave, raising the energy to the crown. The third movement is the delicate heart, the releasing wave, connecting you to suspend the diamond, which is the center of the throat, descending, ascending, outflowing wave, and crown. And now the fourth movement is the ascending through centers, the delicate heart, to the central crown, to return to the fountain, which is the inner form of the fountain, returning to our central crown, arriving to the diamond of self, descending, ascending, and now we are ready for the inner mandala as it becomes the outer mandala. Wonderful, right there. And now we complete and crown. Again. 8. And now we add what we just said earlier, the release of balance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is a diamond. 5 touching the floor. 6, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we have the interchanging balance that we did in the chair, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, returning to center, 2, descending, ascending, 4, complete, and crown, 3, 4. And that is the first whole movement. This first whole movement is called the geometry of balance because it allows us to experience the centralization of the 7 centers and allow also to begin to experience how we move in 3-dimensional space and how we are centralized in 3-dimensional space. Yeah? So remember, after the fountain, we'll stop in 0 point balance, and then we do the inflowing wave, that allow us to define foundation. And foundation is the centralization of the hip and the hip and the pelvic floor via the right and the left and the legs. And then we'll complete that in crown, which raises the energy to the top of the head. Yeah. The second movement, we define again foundation, and then from foundation we raise the merging waves to central heart, which unites the solar plexus and the heart and put us into the center of space. Yeah? And then we descend to foundation and we complete in crown. This is the second movement. Now the third movement, again, allow us to experience foundation, allow us to raise through the second connection, and allow us to arrive to suspended diamond, which is the release and extension of the throat. So we raised the energy from foundation to the solar plexus and heart to the throat, and then you descend to foundation, and then we're going back into crown. And now the fourth movement, we complete the raising of the seven centers. So we go to foundation, through the heart to suspended diamond, and we arrive into central crown, which is the farthest extension of the spine via the outer arc. From then, we go to the fifth definition, which is moving heart, and then from then returning to central crown, arriving to the sixth definition, which is the diamond of self, the center of space again, and then descending, ascending to crown. So now that we have defined all those centers, the seven centers, then the next movement is to ascending through the seven centers and then find the outer expansion that correspond to the inner connection of those seven centers. So we touch through the outer form of the mandala all the seven centers, moving and allow us to experience gravitational expansion. Yeah? After that movement then, since we have finished defining all of them from within and from without, we are ready now to release it through. So from the seven centers, we start in foundation, we go to the solar plexus, we go to all of the seven centers accompanied by the arm, and we create touching balance, which is a circle of all of the seven centers, from which then we raise through the pelvic floor, and we complete again the inner connection through the outer form of the mandala. Yeah? Then after we complete that, we are in the last movement, which now we have learned all the inner connections, all the outer connections, the releasing forward of all the seven centers, the unfolding all the way up to the seven centers. Now we are ready to learn to transfer the weight from symmetry into asymmetry. And then from that connection of transferring the weight, we're learning to transport the seven centers from the point of just before we get to touch symmetry, we become asymmetry again. And in here, we're learning to transfer the weight of the body. Remember, in the chair, when we did it in the chair, we just transfer from one side of the hip to another. But now, since we are standing, we can go into a larger movement. And then as I begin to transfer the weight to one leg to another, then the leg, the opposite leg, becomes the polarity of the transversal connection of the arm. So I begin to experience the inner polarity that allow me to extend myself within myself and the motion. So this is what this is the map of the form of the first whole movement. In the first whole movement, all movements began and end in crown, except in two occasions that we're going to clarify now. Okay? So after the fountain, the first movement, the fountain have ended in 0-point balance. Then it gathers the wave, and the first movement of unity and motion goes from gathering the wave to outflowing wave. And then from then on, the second movement of unity and motion, the second time that we do unity and motion, goes to crown, and the third time, the same. It goes from foundation, raising the energy all the way to crown. That was unity and motion that begins in 0 point, the first time, and then complete in crown. And you do it 3 times. Then the second movement begins in crown, it goes to foundation, it races to central heart, which is the center of space, and then it ends from foundation and the outflowing wave and crown. That was the second movement, beginning and ended in crown. The third movement is the same. You go to foundation, you raise the energy through all the centers, the release wave to arrive to suspend the diamond, which is the centralization of the throat, and then descending, ascending to foundation, and it completes in crown. Now, the fourth movement begins in crown. It ascends through the seven centers, through the delicate heart, and touches central crown, and then the moving diamond brings you back to moving heart, back to central crown, and you define the sixth connection, which is self, that ends in 0 point. So remember, the fourth movement begins in crown and ends in 0 point. It doesn't end in crown, in 0 point. Now the fifth one, gather the wave again to foundation, and it raises the energy through all the seven centers and through the path of balance, opens the whole movement through the outer form, back into crown, returns to foundation, which is the pelvic floor, and it completes in crown. Now, the sixth movement, which is the release of balance, begins in crown again, goes to foundation, and now release each of the seven centers through the descending spring, and creates a circle that touches through a diamond, the floor, touching balance, and then asymmetrically come back to foundation, erases through all the inner form, the seven centers, it completes itself through the outer form, and ends in crown again, like all the other movements. Yeah? Now, the next movement is when we go to the interchanging balance, and we learn to transfer the wave from symmetry to asymmetry, and it begins in crown, it brings us to foundation, and then from foundation we change in the weight to one side of the body more than the other one. And then we're learning to transfer asymmetrically all the seven centers. Wonderful. And we do that 4 times, or twice, completing right and left. And then we complete and from foundation to crown. So we have completed the last movement. Yeah? Wonderful.